on YouTube.
Yes.
We'll still be okay, so this is streaming. Let me just record this.
Yeah, we're streaming.
Okay, as soon as the window pops up, and then there we go. There we go. We have the window open. So, okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host and researcher, Louisa. Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2020, and this is GoldFish Report number 511. This is our series, Food for the Soul. It's really my favorite, actually. This is with, of course, our returning friend to the GoldFish Report, Dr. Scott Werner. And we're here today to talk about healing emotional wounds of the past. So welcome back to the GoldFish Report. Good to see you, Scott.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful you have this platform, and thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm in really deep gratitude for everything you're doing for our souls and for the planet.
Yeah, it's really the soul that I care about because this is just the meat suit,
Yeah,
right? And,
yeah.
it's kind of like it anchors us here, but it's really our experience. And when people deny that inner connection with the creator, it really, results in just all kinds of problems. And it makes it hard to understand why the topic we're talking about today is healing emotional wounds of the past, to free us so we can live our present life. And because they're like strings, weights. Other people call them anchors that anchor us down and keep us from moving forward. And although we may move forward in some areas of our life, right, Scott, it's like we're dragging it along with us. So before we get started on this really great topic that I know everybody can benefit from, because we are going through it now, folks. We are going through it. If it isn't from our own personal life, it's the world around us. It all seems to be in chaos, and we really want to heal. We really want to take care of ourselves and our family. And it's very uncertain. We don't know what this insanity out in the world is going to do to us next. But what we can do is each of us individually is really all we can do is on an individual basis. But before we get started, let me just make this announcement that we have schedule changes to other series of reports that we do here on GoldFish Report. The political theater reports is only going to be available on BitChute now. There will be an icon, and in the description section of the video, there'll be the BitChute link. So immediately, if you see the notification for a new political theater report coming up on YouTube, you just click on it and go to the link for the BitChute will be right below. And this is obviously because we know exactly what's coming, and we are all being very careful and preparing. And I don't want the channel deleted a second time, folks. It's just too much to have to rebuild it. Okay. So we're also on Parler, so you can find us at the GoldFish Report on Parler as well. Everybody's migrating there because we need backups to Twitter. We need backups to, it's great to see that these other platforms are showing up so that we have options and alternatives. So, and it's important to do this because you know that censorship is going to be used as a tool to try to get the Democrats to win the election in 2020. But we all know that only in hell would they have a chance of winning. And maybe not, because I think hell's kicking them out too. So
Oh
in
man.
terms of the Democrats, right? And Scott and I were just talking about how all these demons are being released and attacking people. And people have been contacting Scott for clearings on all of this, and
Oh my
it.
goodness. Yeah,
And,
it's been very, very busy, and it's all been spiritual work. It's like, holy cow, everybody's soul's getting attacked. And so by doing these clearings, matter of fact, one of the clearings I did, the people were so grateful. They gave me every dime they had in their pocket just because they felt so much lighter. It was funny. And I said, I didn't expect anything. I'm just, because spiritual stuff, you just want to do it for free and just keep going. But we do have to keep our doors open too. So I was really grateful.
I'm just saying hello to all of our lovely viewers in our live chat. So forgive me if I just seem to be a little bit delayed here. Um, Absolutely, Scott. And I think one of the things that Scott did was send me these holographic images here, which were really fabulous. There are all kinds of images. This is Archangel Michael. This is the holographic image. This is also a beautiful Mother Mary holographic image. And because one of my daughters is saying, "Hey, I feel something strange next to me. I feel some strange energy," and I said, "Okay." Immediately, I get up, do smudging, and then I put these sigils. We did a prayer. We not sigil. We put these holograms next to them, and everything was fine. Scott.
Oh, I love those. And when it's interesting because a lot of this stuff comes from the Saint Germain teachings back in the 1930s. And when he appeared to Mr. Ballard, and when I found out about all of this, Saint Germain appeared to me again in October 2014 with the answer, what do we do about all the chemicals, the radiation, the nanobots? And he put together the 24 strand DNA manifestation. And in that visitation, he gave me a history of Marduk and the planet that exploded between Jupiter and Mars, and told me all of the different variations and how the DNA actually increases when we go to higher dimensions. We actually double our DNA. The maximum amount of DNA we need here in this dimension is 24 strands. And he gave us the divine invocation, which helps us recreate the 24 strands of perfected DNA back into our bodies. And then, he told me about the 48 strands in the fourth dimension, 96 strands in the fifth dimension. But, it was interesting because I forgot so much because he told me so much, but he keeps reminding me as we go along. And so we've continued to expand our knowledge, expand what we're learning, and it's been great.
Yeah, and so I found these were very, very helpful, and we're going to be talking today in more detail about wounding, like old wounds, healing
Oh,
old wounds, childhood wounds, past wounds, things that anchor us to the past, don't really let us move forward on an emotional level in life. And even,
oh,
and even in our professional life, it can still have an impact there, because they stem from feelings of unworthiness and of shame and of abandonment. And that's it's a shame, but I guess that's what we're here for, is to overcome that. And as Louise Hay said, I mean, the one thing you have to do is love yourself. When the Bible says love your neighbor like yourself, well, how are you loving yourself? What is that relationship like with the neighbor? I'm not going to talk about mine, but I mean, that's sometimes there's no peace. You can't really make peace that much, but it has to be two ways, right? But you just do what you can do. But how do you love yourself? And I don't mean in a conceited way. What do you do? Do you buy yourself a nice candle? Do you take a nice bath? Do you take care of yourself? Do you care? Love is also a verb. So the verb
yes.
of caring for yourself. And in terms of Scott, how can people really understand the concept of loving themselves without, and not in a conceited way, because that's not the healthy way. That's the ego, loving yourself in an ego way. But from a soul perspective, what's where can we start with this?
Well, to start with, we need to really understand who we truly are. We are creations of a loving God, and He put that love into us. And during, in the beginning, there was nothing but love. But then we started getting hoodwinked or brainwashed by the dark, the beings who actually decided not to follow God. In the Bible, it talks about a third of the host of heaven followed the satanic teachings of Lucifer and followed Lucifer. And The Luciferian plan was to force us to come back to heaven. But that was not actually a very good plan, because when you're forced to do something, you don't really learn and you don't have choice. You don't have your sovereignty. And the founding fathers of the United States, when they were making our Constitution, making the Bill of Rights, they were looking at our sovereignty that was given to us by God, that we need to have choice. And as we make correct choices, we absolve and disassemble the darkness.
Mm.
But we need to ask ourselves, why are we here on the planet at this time? Literally, they say in the war in heaven, there was 60 billion souls. And a third of those, 20 billion, followed the darkness. So 40 billion followed the light. Now, if you look at the population of the earth right now, we are at 7.5 billion people, which means that there's a lot of souls who are here right now. And why are we here on this planet at this unprecedented time? There are thoughts and emotions that have victimized us. We have gone through lifetimes of turmoil and chaos. In fact, a lot of them are acting out that chaos right now and pulling things down, thinking that's going to make things right. But they're not creating, they're just destroying and causing chaos, which is from the darkness. Our Creator creates and creates beautiful things, good things for us to enjoy.
Mhm.
And by destroying things, that are bugging us because they represent somebody or someone who did some uh, historical things, it's quite fascinating as I see this happening. And in my mind, I keep getting they're not creators; they're creating chaos and destroying things. It's like all the ancient ruins in the Mediterranean and in Egypt and in the Middle East. You had these people going in and just destroying all the artifacts. And it's like, come on, folks. You know, we're not worshiping these things, but they are very, very fascinating to see. And when they're destroyed, you can no longer see them. And so it's like they're destroying things that were created in the past, our past,
Mhm.
and because we lived in these times, and here things happen. So the reason they're destroying is their childhood. They were not taught to be creators. They were not taught to be uh, observe beautiful things and love them for what they are. They look into other things and they decide, oh, we've got to get rid of this because it's slavery, whatever. But they're not actually acting on what's enslaving us. Isn't that statue?
Yeah.
It's the government and the laws that have been enacted by people who want to enslave us that
Right.
is the problem. Slavery by itself is a very horrible thing, but it's when we create laws and taxes and lack of abundance and lack of income, lack of ability that causes us to become enslaved. And so, with our childhood wounds, we're actually acting out of our shame, blame, guilt, remorse, whatever we're experiencing. Our anger is even something that can be stored in our body. And releasing these in a positive way is better than going out and destroying things. Because going out and destroying things is going to cause more problems with our psyche. And Go ahead.
I just wanted to comment there. I mean, it does serve an agenda for the dark, doesn't it? I mean, when they start to, they keep us in a negative vibration through all this
Yes,
negativity through the television, through the violence in the television, and even in all this, subliminal programming and cartoons and everything, and movies as well. I mean, Hollywood's just famous for that, right? But
yes,
and that serves such a function, right? Because it really serves to reinforce negative beliefs. Because it really comes down to belief systems, doesn't it? Like,
absolutely.
can you explain that a little bit more?
Oh, yes. From the time we are in conceived, a lot of people debate, when does life really start? Well, the second that sperm and egg come together, your DNA is created. And through that DNA, you start bringing in the energies of the universe of your soul. And, you know, I best can describe what happens in utero because, when I was conceived by my mom and dad. And my dad was already out messing around with another woman. He was going to a dance class and had made a relationship with this other lady. And my mom found out about it when she was 3 months pregnant with me. And all of a sudden, and I recall all this because I've been totally cleared and I've had my memories returned to me, that I remember being in utero and feeling the anger of my mother towards my father in utero at 3 months.
Wow.
And, if you want to see a really eye opening movie, watch Unplanned. It talks about this lady who actually worked for Planned Parenthood and she had her first abortion. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this because it's very important what we have created or the cabal has created. Because Planned Parenthood, when Vicky was watching it, right at the end, they talk about how George Soros, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett are the chief people putting billions of dollars into Planned Parenthood
Mm.
and how they make it your choice. These young girls come in and they say, oh, getting pregnant, you don't have the capacity to be a mother at this time. And they're brand new kids being pregnant. And I was forced to work in Planned Parenthood down in Phoenix because our program director was very much into birth control and assisting women with their right to have an abortion or kill their babies. And it was very fascinating because they gave me all the shit jobs because, I would not perform abortions because morally I was against it for myself and my own belief system. And yet, we had to counsel him and say, this is your right to terminate your pregnancy, because of Roe versus Wade. It's your God given right. But the thing they don't tell you is the God Baal required all their followers to sacrifice their first. And this is quite interesting because most of these women, it's their first pregnancy. And they go in and they go through the abortion process and they sacrifice their first. And, as we look at this, it creates guilt, shame, and blame. I, I did examinations, historical uh, data from all the women that I treated when I was an OBGYN. And I remember, we had to ask them how many times they'd been pregnant, how many abortions
Yeah.
or miscarried. And as they would recall these things, I could see sadness come into their heart field. And because there was always this wonder, what would have happened if I hadn't had that abortion and had that baby? And it was fascinating for me as a medical doctor
Hmm.
to see it actually affected their psyche. So even when we're in utero, we feel things, we experience things, we are gathering information and developing our personalities, and our emotions and our personality creates our reality. And so it begins very early in our life where we develop these feelings, these emotions, these thought forms. And as we are creating these personalities and creating our personal reality, we get deflected from the beauty of pure love, of happiness, of conscious knowing what is and what we shouldn't be,
Yeah,
thinking about. And these create our problems
mhm,
throughout our life.
right.
And until we release these negative thought forms, these negative emotions, by negative, I mean they're lower vibrating. Because in Dr. David Hawkins' study, kinesiology, came to find kinesiology worked, and he
Mhm.
would rate every emotion people have, and the higher emotions vibrate higher. The highest is Christ consciousness in this third dimension. The lowest is shame, blame, and guilt.
Yeah. Well, let me
Think
just
all of us with shame, blame, and guilt. Go ahead.
sure. Let me just interject here because I want to make a distinction. We can't talk about the topic of abortion with a broad brush because it is such a traumatizing and horrific decision for women to face because
Oh,
it's in their
absolutely.
body. And let me just say this, that that there's many people who find themselves forced to make this choice. It's not versus people who use this as a form of birth control. So we can't assume that everybody who's had an abortion has been is using it as a form of birth control. There are serious life factors that
Oh,
can force a person and can absolutely traumatize them for making that choice or being forced to make that choice because maybe it was forced on them. So let's just realize that we can't be shaming people for having had this. It's quite a very life traumatizing event for,
oh,
for for most people, not maybe perhaps not everybody, but I can say, I mean, and I've had an ectopic pregnancy as well. These are heartbreaking decisions,
yes,
heartbreaking. And let me say, for most people. So I really think that it's nobody's business but the person who has to make that choice. And let me tell you, that is going to be a choice you have to live with the rest of your life. And it is not going to be and has, an easy choice for most women.
yes.
So I think we need to be very, very careful when we talk about the topic of abortion. But you're absolutely right,
Well,
because the guilt and shame from that can destroy. Let's just say for argument's sake, it's a war between a husband and wife. Husband doesn't want it, the wife does. Let's just use this as a hypothetical example, that there are extenuating circumstances where the marriage could break up. All it could be horrible things going on, and it really truly would be horrible, and could even be could even result in suicide or some other kind. I mean,
yeah,
horrible thing, right? So these are agonizing choices that people have to make, right? and
yes,
and you're absolutely right about the shame and the guilt from a psychology perspective. It is unbearable, and it's not something that ever leaves a person, especially when the topic of abortion comes up. It's like
yes,
opening that wound and pouring salt back in that wound every time it's addressed. And
yeah,
and when people talk about it with such judgment, how do people, it's very hard, especially since we're on this topic, let's talk about it.
yes.
How do
Well,
people heal from that when people continue to judge people, continue to call it whatever they call it, as horrible and graphic as it is? It is horrible. It is a horrible thing. But there's people who have to have it. There's people who are forced into it for medical reasons. There's people who have to make this decision and don't need to be reminded of how horrible it is because someone else places judgment on them for that. So,
yeah,
okay, if we want to talk
and
about shame, let's talk about how do women, let's just say mostly because
yes.
women are the ones who have to live with this choice in their body. How can women then move past that shame and guilt?
Well, number one, I want to say women to me have been the most spiritual beings I've ever met. And they're the most connected to God. And when I would talk to these women, I actually learned how to do what we call remote viewing. And when you learn how to remote view, you not only can view stuff going on in the now, you can remote view what happened in the past, and you can remote view what happens in the future. And so when I learned this remote viewing, I would literally help them by going into what caused that decision making, because we have to reflect on what caused us to choose what we chose. Because anytime we make a choice, that's our sovereignty. And when we make a choice that is being controlled by somebody else, we are giving away our sovereignty, because our sovereignty was given to us by God to make our own choices. And that's why this affects us so deeply.
Mhm.
And women, especially, you know, they may have had a one night stand, they may have had a rape, they may have had something happen where they have to make this choice, because they are the one who is pregnant. And they make the choice, and then they have to live with that choice. And so we remotely view the choice, and we can actually shift the timeline to make a better choice, and that can shift the energy. And by doing that, I've been able to help many women get through this horrific experience and deal with the emotion on an energetic level and come into an emotion where they make right with their firstborn or their second or whatever. And they talk to them through this experience, and they tell them how sorry they are and how they love them. And it's interesting because the soul of that fetus, of that new human being, forgives them and loves them, sends them love. And all of a sudden, they're feeling this love from their baby. And it resolves their shame, blame, and guilt, because they feel that unconditional love from their fetus, from that soul of that being that would have came. And they sometimes have other messages for them about this that are just so delightful. It actually makes them have happiness and joy. So they go from this shame, blame, and guilt, which vibrates in the very lowest vibration, to vibrating in love and bliss and joy, because they know that they did the best they could with what was going on, and they were able to communicate and shift the energy back into unconditional love, which is fabulously healing. And you can do this for any emotion. What you do is you look at it, you write down what caused it. I love write and burn. I'm going to give you some tools. Now, if you don't practice the tools, you're just listening, but you need to do what I'm telling you to do. Because what happens is not only do you hear, but you learn, and then you process the emotion, and then you can let it go with unconditional love. So I have people write down things, and then I have them write down the cause, the reason, the feeling that they had. And then I have them literally take it out and start it on fire and release it into the ethers with love, unconditional love. And everybody I've taught this technique to, they feel a shift in their auric field. Now, when I go with them and do remote viewing, go into their past, go into a past life even. Some of us have emotions we've carried for lifetimes and we haven't been able to shift them. And by viewing them and dealing with those emotions and using Ho'oponopono, I love myself, I forgive myself, I feel sorrow for doing what I did, and I feel gratitude for having had that experience, but now it's time to move forward. And we all need to move forward. Even I've had to do this with myself. And believe me, every time you do this, it creates an energy of healing in the soul and in the physical body, emotional body, the mental body. And so it's very powerful.
Mm.
Now, another technique you can use is go out into a field. And some people, if they want to destroy something, go out in your field and take a picture of something you're angry at and destroy it without going out and destroying historical things. Just destroy what you have been having emotional contention with. And by doing that, go out in the field, yell at it, scream at it, destroy it, burn it without causing destruction to anybody else or problems with anybody else. And you're actually not creating more karma. People who are out destroying, they're actually creating more karma for themselves.
Yeah.
And so we want to do it in a safe location where we can deal with these negative emotions and do it in a positive form, even though sometimes we're so angry, you have to yell and scream. Believe it or not, that gets it out. And then you love yourself and seal off that energy from you. And it won't come back. It won't come back to bother.
Well, Scott, if I could just make a comment here, you're absolutely right. And, Scott is a life coach as well. And one of my life coaches, I called her a life coach, but because she was to everybody who read her books, Louise Hay. This is my favorite book right here in the world. This is the second copy that I have because the first one, the binder completely broke off the book, and the pages, I couldn't even find it, to be honest. I don't know where it is. I must have it in a safe place because without the binder, the pages are all over the place. But I had to get another one. This is called You Can Heal Your Life, and let me tell you how
Yes.
powerful this is and what Scott's talking about here. And this is about, here she talks about I have to take my glasses off to read this. Self-criticism is totally missing the mark. She says here, it will only intensify the procrastination and laziness. The place to put the mental energy is into releasing the old and creating the new thought pattern. The funny thing about Louise Hay was she taught us that these um, behaviors that we were doing were, they were based on a belief or a thought that we had. So we
Yes.
think something, there's the old adage, I think, therefore I am. It's so powerful. And I think the main message, that she was communicating was about this, that we had to change our way of thinking. But, you have to, as you said, Scott, you can't just listen. This is work. You have to work at this. There's affirmations you have to do. There's things you have to put effort into this. But the first thing, you can't get past it. You can't even start healing if you don't wake up and recognize that you have the power within you to change those thoughts that are creating uh, these, like you said, illnesses, right? These emotions that manifest in illnesses. And she has a great section in the back of this book, where she lists all the emotions, I'm sorry, the problems, and then
Yeah.
she lists the probable cause, which is like a belief, a thinking pattern, right, Scott, that
Yes.
manifests, right? And she tries to rephrase it in a position where you need to create a new thought pattern about it. And she says too that when you go to change things, when you go to there's resistance to change too. So, it's very difficult. Some people just, have found it safe and comfortable being in, even if they're not exactly happy, it's safe and comfortable, right?
Yes.
That's tough, Scott. That's a very tough rut to get out of.
Yes. And that's why I say get away from everybody and everything, go out into nature. And it's tough in big cities to do this, but go into nature and literally go with the intent to release. And I would work on one emotion at a time and one instant that caused that emotion, and go in with the attitude to release and never connect with that energy again. The problem is we know our past and we keep reminding ourselves going into our past of what our problems are. And so we need to release them and never visit them again. And we cancel out the energies. We actually have the ability not only to create, but to uncreate and absolve things. And so, how do we do this? Number one is releasing negative emotion techniques and setting a goal. We have to have something to focus on. We have to have our North Star to aim for. And so many have reached out and wanted a reading with me at this time just because they want to know if what they're working on is correct, because we've been so brainwashed, we don't have the reality that we are sovereign anymore, because we've given away our sovereignty to other people and other things and governments and everything else. And so we need to sit down and meditate and have come to us. And if we can't figure it out because we've given away our abilities, we contact somebody who can help us with insight, help us look at things from another perspective. This is the best help that a psychologist could be, is have us look at another perspective and look at a way to heal that emotion, something we can actively do, because it takes doing to heal what we've done.
Yeah,
So, in
takes
other
work.
words, we've done something, we need to undo it through action.
Mhm.
Does that
No,
make sense?
no, it makes perfect sense. And it's our so we're the hardware, and our experiences become our software, right? And so the problem is the program just keeps running unless you correct it. There's a bug in the program, and you need to really correct it. And if that helps anybody out there for that analogy, but it really is, because and we misunderstand a lot around us. That's the problem, Scott, is
Yeah.
that like you said, we only see things from one perspective. We don't see it from another person's perspective, or maybe from a larger perspective, maybe just from a small or smaller perspective. You don't see the context of the situation in the larger perspective. And sometimes that's what's really necessary, especially when it comes to a relationship issue. You really do need to understand where the other person's coming from, if you care about them, or if you even want to have a successful relationship after that. If you're not paying attention to the other person's feelings and what their needs and wants are, then you're not going to have any successful relationships, no matter what you're doing,
Yeah. We
right?
are receiving so much information right now. We don't even know how to deal with all of it. And so when we listen to all this information, we usually do nothing because we don't know what to do. So listening does not cause the change. Action, developing a plan to evolve and to assist yourself to evolve. And that's why the 24th strand, I keep getting
Yeah.
back to the 24th strand, because the 24th strand DNA manifestation, when people get that 24 strands, it brings new information in. You become more adaptable. You actually evolve and see things from a higher perspective. I've talked to people who have done the 24 strand DNA manifestation, and they're like, Scott, I'm receiving answers from God. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
And, Like this guy that got off the heroin for 40 years, he'd been injecting heroin. He gets to the end of the 24 strand
Jeez.
DNA manifestation. All of a sudden, those emotional wounds that caused him to start the heroin in the first place went
Right.
away, and he had no desire to use it anymore.
That's
And
beautiful. That's a beautiful example because you're right. The drug addiction isn't the problem. It's what causes the
it's
person
the
to go to the
emotions.
drugs to begin with. And you know what? A lot of it is this self-criticism. And where does it come from? It comes from childhood, right?
Yes,
And so Louise Hay also says, she says here, you need to, this is the affirmation. So let's just use this as an example, okay? She
yes.
says, I am willing to release the need to be unworthy. That's huge. Can people really? I mean, we have to say this. We have to say it until our tongue bleeds. We have to say it over and over and over. We have to look in the
Until
mirror.
we feel it.
Yeah, until we feel it. Exactly. This is about loving yourself. And the first thing is how to, you can't forgive yourself and be free of that unless you stop the self criticizing, right? I mean, look, just to be fair, there are some people who need to not self criticize, but be critical and introspective and consider whether they're the cause of the problem in the relationship. So, it's okay to be introspective. That's not the same as being self critical, right, Scott? So here's what she says. She says, do this instead, right? I am worthy of the very best in life, and I now lovingly allow myself to accept it. As I spend a few days doing this affirmation over and over, my outer effect pattern of procrastination will automatically begin to fade. Or as I internally create a pattern of self worth, then I no longer have the need to delay my good. Right. So, I mean, who trains us to think this way? I mean,
I do.
thank
And
you.
you do. You're a
No.
psychologist, but you're one of these good ones that actually help motivate people to do something. Because we can't
Thanks.
just sit on it and learn about it. We have to apply what we've learned. Because until you start applying and taking action steps,
Yeah.
you're not going to evolve.
And they're like roadblocks. They're like, you just keep tripping over them. They're like speed bumps in the road. They just keep coming up. They don't go away because you don't go inside and do that work. And people don't want to feel the pain, Scott. And that's why they don't want to do the work. And look, I've had issues like this in my own life, but I can tell you this book changed my life. And if it wasn't for her, I have no idea where my path of life would have brought me. I just never heard of this. You're raised in a home and you're indoctrinated into their thinking. Yeah, and
Yes.
their belief system and their political affiliations and everything about it. And then you go out into the world, and then you go to your friend's house, and you realize, oh, it doesn't they don't do it that way, and it's like, wow, that's great, and so then you start thinking that, oh wait, we have some different beliefs in our family, and then you start to realize, and I really love how you invoked in the beginning of our report today the idea of our founding fathers and how they invoked our god-given rights into our bill of rights and constitution and declaration of independence, right? And it's rumored Saint Germain was there for that and made sure that happened,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's no surprise with that, but the self-criticizing is, you know this sadly, this definitely comes from your parents. I mean, that's where it's going to come from, right? And sadly, your parents have to be the ones that know you the best, and they have to be the ones that kind of, you know, help you see your flaws too, because you'd rather your parents point them out to you than a friend or teacher or someone else that could be more embarrassing. So it's kind of like a can't win situation because you have to be there to kind of guide your kids. You try to do it as lovingly as possible, but the problem is when it becomes the only narrative in your mind, in that internal narrative that you have, when, oh, I'm not good enough, instead of focusing on, okay, well, I wasn't born perfect, so I'm going to find a way to improve this so that I don't do that anymore. And so because this is the obstacle is realizing that, just saying, oh, being okay with the idea that you make a mistake. and that you can learn to do things differently, and
Yes.
that will work better. But you have to do the work. If you're going to run from the fear and the pain of confronting it, you're going to have problems the rest of your life, and you're not going to find happiness in the true sense of having the freedom of, all those attachments of the past, You want to set your sail, you want to sail your boat without anchors attached to your boat. And I know Audrey Lewis,
Yes.
who's been on this report, has said that many times. They're like anchors weighing your boat down, and there's only so far that wind can take those sails. Your boat's not going to travel very far. It may move a little, but it's not going to travel very far until we
Yeah.
detach
Sometimes
those
it won't
anchors.
travel at all because you're
They
stuck.
don't.
You got that wall, and we can help you with those walls. One of the things that Vicky talks about a lot is the, uh, you know, emotional freedom technique or tapping. They
Uh-huh.
actually did a study where they took people and they measured cortisol levels. And cortisol is a sign of stress in the body. And they would test sublingual, the saliva, and they could look at the levels before and after doing certain things. And the emotional freedom technique or tapping, they found that 49% of the people, it lowered their cholesterol. So
Mm,
almost half,
mm,
and going to a counselor made it go down 19%. Reading a magazine was like the control of this study.
mm.
And guess what happened when they read the magazine? Their cortisol levels actually went up. Reading magazines
Yeah.
is like watching the news, except the news can be even more agitating and make your cholesterol levels go up. And so these emotional release techniques that we're talking about, I want you to start practicing them,
Yeah.
because when you let go of your negative emotions, your body's entire vibratory state comes up, and you actually become a more creative, a more productive human being. You're actually able to produce more. You're able to think clearer. You're not dwelling in these lower vibrations anymore because you've actually done the work, released them, and
Yeah.
moved forward in your life.
Yeah.
And we need to do this more than ever right now.
Yeah. No one's saying, I mean, you're clearly not saying this is easy because if it was so easy, right, Scott, everybody would be doing it. So
Well,
it's
let me tell
definitely,
you, it is easy if you choose to do something.
oh, that
If you just
choice.
choose to listen, nothing
Choice.
changes.
Yeah.
I mean, we can listen, 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 but until we do, nothing changes. So
All right.
start doing it. Things will start shifting and your abilities will increase. Your life will change.
Okay, let's get a little more serious, like we were talking about the abortion issue, because that's a very serious issue. Let's talk about kids that grew up in a house where there was physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. We're talking about real abuse, folks.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that's really hard because it hurts. The pain never goes away. And not only that, but the emotional abandonment is huge. And the problem is, folks, we all know this, right? We all tend to repeat these same patterns of behavior in our adult relationships because that's what we thought, and that's what we were indoctrinated in our families to believe that's what love is. It's sad, very sad to have um and it's very true, right? The girl's most important relationship in her life is with her father. Same with the females and their son, the mothers and their sons. And it's very important to have those both. There's a reason why man and woman make baby, and the pair bonding. Which anthropologists have done lots of studies on this whole pair bonding. The need for pair bonding is that the amount of investment and support needed to raise this baby to be able to live long enough to reproduce, right? is a huge investment, different than the animal kingdom. And I can't stand when people make they don't study anthropology or anything. They make the analogy, well, there's all this different behavior in the animal kingdom. Yes, but they are not ascended to humans. They are animals, and they may not, some animals bond for life like swans do. Not all of them do. Some, mate and you never see them again. So, but we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to animals. Humans are so much more complex. Our investment in our young is huge. It's a huge investment. The pair bonding relationship is so vital in the raising of the young. So this is Dr. Helen Fisher from Rutgers, which is where I had graduated from. Dr. Helen Fisher would talk about this, and she went on to create and be founder of Match.com. But she talked about extensively about the whole difference in pair bonding relationships with different species, and specifically when it came to humans, because what fathers can provide to both the son and the daughter are different than what mothers will provide. There's just different uh, uh, attributes to their character that are formed with the presence of these two parents in the marriage. Now, I'm not saying that your kid's going to be completely messed up if you don't have both, or if you have two fathers or two mothers. But if they, but they're, they won't. I don't think. I think we should look at the studies on that before we make any kind of comments. I mean, I don't have a personal opinion on it. I just know that that the heterosexual perspective is my default, and that's just how I view things. But I'm not saying that everybody should be that way. I'm just saying that we should look at the studies on this and what it tells us. So,
Yeah.
so the fact that when you have parents that are divorcing, you have parents that that irreparably harms the child. I'm sorry, it's just my opinion. I have unfortunately had to go through it, not by choice. And and then you start to develop these feelings of unworthiness, and that's the killer. You have to be able to identify the origin of these beliefs first, Scott. How do people, once they're in adulthood, if they haven't recognized that this pattern comes from childhood, how on earth do they start to look and associate what's going on in their life now with something that happened to them in childhood?
We have so many good therapists, so many people who are using these new techniques to find the core cause, to find where that emotion began. And as we see what caused the emotion, then we can work on releasing it and moving forward. And, I've met people who can't remember back from certain times because they have this horrible thing happen. And, their subconscious, in order to protect their psyche, everything's forgotten. And they can't even realize what happened to them to cause them. And so that's why remote viewing and psychic abilities can allow us to see these things. I literally had two people call yesterday, had appointments, and we literally just looked at the emotions, cleared them, helped them see what they were, cleared them, and they were just so happy. They kept offering me all kinds of stuff after we cleared it because their consciousness got so elevated. They just wanted to give back. And I love this work because it works, number one, and it elevates the persons you're working with
Mm.
and helps them resolve issues that they don't even know where they're at. And we illuminate and bring them up, and then we resolve them and dispose of those emotions, those negative emotions, and uncreate them
Mm.
and move forward, which is
Mm.
amazing. Vicki and we're currently doing the ABCs of personal transformation. And Vicki is like, she knows her stuff.
She's good.
You know,
She's good. Yeah, she's very good.
I
She's
love to just
amazing.
watch her
I'm sorry.
teach.
Can I just interject for a minute because she did a what was it called? A past life
Past
regression.
life regression.
It was amazing. She's so good at what she does. She's very patient. She just knows she's so good as a coach, I have to say. I mean, and so are you, Scott.
Oh, well, thank you.
Scott has kept me going. He's kept me alive. Let me tell you, if it wasn't for Scott, I don't know where I'd
Oh,
be.
it's not me. It's the guides helping me
No, if it
because I
wasn't for
couldn't do
Scott.
this without them.
Oh, Scott's helped me out immeasurably. I'm eternally grateful to you and Vicky too. But what I'm saying is Vicky's wonderful, and you really need somebody who understands what the experience the individual is having so that they can get you through it and coach you through it. It's so hard to, though, uh, let's just use an actual example, a hypothetical. Let's walk us through what you would do.
Well,
Okay,
let me tell you.
somebody comes to you and says, you know, I was molested by my father, you know, and that's a violation of trust, that's abandonment, that's you know, physical abuse, you know, it's all these things. How do you, and they're an adult and they are, you know, frigid, they are afraid of intimacy, they're afraid of
Yeah.
relationships, they're, you know, because it reminds them. How, what do you start? This is one example,
Well,
unless you want to finish what you were saying.
one of the most wicked things that can happen is us abusing children. And so as we look at it, it's not only a failure of the parent to be a loving, kind example, but it's an example of the worst thing that we can imagine. And so as we deal with this kind of stuff, most people experience grief. And grief gets centered in the lungs and the heart. And as I'm talking about grief, I'm bringing this up because during the COVID, when we were shut down,
Mm,
we actually did a mentoring on grief.
mm,
And it was absolutely fabulous because we gave methods and examples of what to do, how to clear it. And actually, we want to make this available to everybody. We've been told by the Ascended Masters, and Vicky was just like, we've got to get this out to people for free. And it's on my website. It's the entire training, but you know, don't just listen, start to do what we are teaching
mm.
because it will free your emotions.
Yeah, just screen
Oh,
sharing your website here, so
oh,
everybody
thank you.
sees health and longevity. Then you can
Yes,
see Vicky and Scott right here, and they're going through. Look at this: victim mentality, unresolved emotions. This is exactly what we're talking about. From grief to
yes.
gratitude, week 7. Look at that. Look at
You
that.
know what's interesting about grief? It's
Mm,
a stopper, a major block
mhm.
that keeps you from moving forward. Thank you for sharing that, by the way,
Oh
because
yeah.
we are making that available for free. So go and watch
Yeah.
it and learn from it. And if you have questions, shoot us an email. We will do our best. You know, right now, Vicki and I are committed to serving God. Guess who is God? You
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. I'm gonna
You
put
are.
I'm putting it in the link I just put in the live chat right there, but it's also in the description section of this video. So if anybody is looking for that, I also just put it in the live chat right there too. No, I mean it's on topic of what we're talking about right now.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's why we're giving this as an
Yeah.
example, because all of us have experienced grief. You know, we love something and it dies, or
Mm,
we enjoy something and it's taken from us, you know, and even giving our
yeah.
sovereignty away
Mhm.
causes grief. And the Satanists know this. And that's why they convince us to do things, be
Yeah.
make our consent. You know, it's not like even the consent thing with sex. I think it's very important that you agree together when you get a man and a woman together and they have sex. You have to have consent because it is giving part of your sovereignty to that person. And so, you know, when somebody rapes you, they're taking your sovereignty. And that's why it's such a diabolical thing. You know, it causes grief. So let's go with that grief. And it's a wall, it's a blockage that keeps you from moving forward. So it's right
Right.
there, it's stopping you. And we have these stoppers that keep us from moving ahead to what we truly desire, what we really want to be is loving, kind, bountiful, prosperous human beings who are creating things.
Right.
And these stoppers build that wall, and we need to be, we can't even see over the wall sometimes, and we can't even see what the wall is. And so that's why it's helpful to have a mentor or a psychic or somebody who can help us see what's blocking us,
Mm.
especially when we can't see what it is,
Right.
and assist us with seeing what we truly want, but actually helping us to remove that wall or that emotional pocket that's causing us not to get beyond. And so we give techniques to help remove that guilt, that wall. And, truthfully, one of the best techniques is tapping. Another great technique is write and burn, write down. And now that you know what it is, you can write it down and choose to do different. And you can manipulate the timeline, create a new timeline where that guilt never happened, never existed. You can shift what occurred and change it and move beyond that because the wall just disappears. I've done this technique with people thousands of times,
Mm.
and all of a sudden they just feel this peace, this light start entering into their system, and that blockage disappears. Because we are creators, we create our blockages, and we have others
Yeah.
creating blockages for us.
Hmm.
And that's what creates karma, is creating all these blockages with each other. And so we need to deal with each other. We need to love each other, forgive each other, have sorrow for things that we did wrong, and have gratitude enough that we do something about it and make it right, either through our mind's eye, because some of the people we've done wrong to are already dead. So how do we make that right? They're still alive. Their soul's still there. Their soul may even still be suffering
Mm.
because of something we did. And so we
Mm.
discuss it with them. We love them, send them love. Ho'oponopono. We tell them that we're sorry. We tell them that, we feel that sorrow. We forgive them and we forgive ourselves. And then we send them gratitude. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for allowing me to have this experience with you. And go through it until you feel it's completed. I'd start back up with I love you again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry that happened. Please forgive me. I forgive myself. And I'm so grateful. And you keep going through that process until you feel that peace,
Mm-hmm.
that light. Because guess what happens when you feel it? They're feeling it, and they can move beyond the wall that was created with both of you. And it's amazing. I love Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
I can do it all day long.
We have viewers who are followers of your work, Scott, who are talking about Ho'oponopono. So they're here and they love you and Vicky. They're putting their comments in the section here. And I have to say that Scott and Vicky work so beautifully, amazingly beautiful together. It is an amazing, they complement each other in such beautiful ways that I really, it's always a pleasure to have them both on. Um,
And
let
let me
me,
tell you
yeah,
something
go ahead.
about me and Vicky.
Yeah.
Both of us were abused as children, and both of us didn't feel the love of our parents.
Uh,
So we've had to go through this work. And let me tell you, we've worked very hard in clearing all of these uppers,
yeah.
all these walls, all these emotions. And we've been able to get through them, and they've actually raised our vibration to the point where we can help you to
Right.
raise your vibration because we are vibrating higher. You can't have a mentor that is
No.
not beyond where you have
Yeah.
gotten. And
Yeah.
so we've had to move ourselves farther and farther, higher and higher to a higher love vibration. And so that we can assist you to get to the higher vibration.
We have
And
a
that's what
question.
it's all about.
We have a question from Isla. When should someone seek a past life regression?
Now,
Now.
now that you're aware,
Yeah, exactly.
don't just listen,
Yeah,
do it.
exactly.
There's a
Let me.
lot of people trained by Dolores Cannon. Both Vicki and I were trained by Dolores Cannon.
Yeah,
And
Dolores Cannon.
Dolores was the most amazing past life regressionist I have ever met.
Mm,
And she knows the technique. She taught them to us. She's
mm.
taught them to thousands of other people. Now, some of those people, they listened, but they didn't apply.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying the best time to do it is now. Now
Yeah.
that you know better, it's time to do better.
Let me just say that for those who are watching us live, thank you for being with us. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're talking about today, folks. Let me just talk about self-criticism a little bit here. This is a quote from Louise Hay's book, and then I want your response, Scott. She says here, I have a client who will eat a pound of butter and everything else she can get a hold of when she cannot bear to be with her own negative thoughts. The next day, she will be angry at her body for being heavy. When she was a little girl, she would walk around the family dinner table, finishing off everyone's leftovers and eating a whole stick of butter. The family would laugh and think it was so cute. It was almost the only approval she got from her family.
Called
When,
self sabotage.
when you scold yourself, when you berate yourself, when you beat yourself up, who do you think you're treating this way? Almost all of our programming, both negative and positive, was accepted by us by the time we were 3 years old. Our experiences since then are based upon what we accepted and believed about ourselves and about life at the time, which is what we were just talking about. The way we were treated when we were very little is usually the way we treat ourselves now. The person you are scolding is a 3-year-old child within you. So if you are a person who gets angry at yourself for being afraid and fearful, think of yourself as being 3 years old. If you had a 3-year-old child in front of you who was afraid, what would you do? Would you be angry at him, or would you reach out your arms and comfort the child until he felt safe and at ease? The adults around you when you were a child may not have known how to comfort you at that time. Now you are the adult in your life, and if you're not comforting the child within you, then it is very sad indeed. What was done in the past is done. It is now over. But this is the present time, and you can now have the opportunity to treat yourself the way you wish to be treated. This is exactly what you just said. You have to acknowledge it and then let it go. But with
Yes.
someone who's skilled, as I think people like to have, even like with meditation, people like to have guides. They like to have guided meditation. They like to have guides for a while until they get more comfortable with being on their own with their own meditation styles and things like that. But she's very true. This is very true. And so once you recognize, where this is coming from and that you have these feelings, and I think the one thing that helped me heal the most was that you have to cut your parents some slack. You really do.
Well, see, they had the same problem. They just
Right?
propagated what they were taught.
Yes.
We gotta forgive them.
Absolutely. You got to cut your parents some slack, man. I mean, they didn't have all the answers. It was we don't have the book of life where, we have the solution for every circumstance. This is our school. We're learning, and we're also letting go of dependency on other people for approval. And now that you're the adult, it's like just what she said, you have to be the one to give yourself what you didn't have. So for instance, we grow up very, very uh we were, I would say, in the lower middle class bracket. Okay. family of 5, and my father didn't make much money, and then when I was a teenager, he got sick with, lung cancer, and I never talked about this ever publicly. This is the first time for me. So we're having a little healing session, okay? So I'm sharing a little something personal. And so it was very devastating to my family, uh, and I kind of wasn't the one to really complain very much, I really didn't, and I still don't, but that's just my personality. But you have to realize that, like you just said, they're just doing the best they can. And then sometimes life circumstances come in and just change and make it so overwhelming for them that they're not able to be there to give you everything that you need. And so once you look back and say they did the best they could with what they had at the time, if they knew better, they would do better, right? So
Yes.
that's part of the Ho'oponopono too that you always talk about. It's like give them a break because they were faced with choices that were in some cases maybe very overwhelming
Oh, yeah.
and very limiting as well. So it was not so you don't have to have feelings of being unworthy of that. They just but somehow that gets translated. So that kind of situation where, you kind of have parents that had these demands and had things that were, they couldn't give you that attention and stuff. And so what happened to me was when I had my daughters, it was makeup time. I completely relived my childhood vicariously through my daughters and loved every minute and completely healed. It's really not a bad
You're
thing.
a lucky one. You're very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
fantastic.
because I just, I had it in me. It's like what I wanted, I gave, and so it kind of came back to me. And so, and I just enjoyed every minute, and of course, with the acknowledgement that they did the best they could. I can't blame my parents for what happened. Obviously, I was a kid and I didn't understand really what was going on. Obviously, as an adult, you do. So, you really do find some peace within that, and you find healing in it too. Um, and you understand it doesn't change that it doesn't change the now this is where Scott can come in and say go back and change that from from looking at it in a sad perspective. You can change how you look at it.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that will and you talk about Wayne Dwyer all the time, and that was one of his classic quotes was when you change the way you look at things, those things change,
Yeah, the way you look at things
things
changes.
change the way, changes what
Change the
you're
way you
looking
look
at.
at things, the
Yeah,
things you look at change.
change. Exactly.
Yeah.
So now and there's so much healing in that. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Well, absolutely. You're talking about exactly what is needed is we need to look at those things and change them through either Ho'oponopono, write and burn, tapping, uh, hypnotherapy. Sometimes we just need to acknowledge and then send it love and let it go. And let me tell you, love heals everything. Love isn't sex, like we've been taught for eons of time. Even the poor Romans were taught, oh, sex is love. And they never really understood that love is giving of your own soul to create harmony with others. That's the true thing. It's letting go of your own ego, it's letting go of your own thoughts and pure selfless service. And that's where we need to head to
Mm,
because I get calls every day from people, oh, when's the economic change coming, and I keep telling them, look, don't wait for it. Start your projects now. And, even though right now they're having the tiers are actually
mm,
working. And, I've been receiving really good information, but let me tell you, it's time to start your projects now by focusing your attention
mm.
on the healing and assistance of other humans.
Yeah.
Um, it's the most powerful thing we can do to change the earth is to change our hesitancy,
Mhm.
our stoppers, our walls. Even money can be a wall. And as we start focusing on what we truly desire rather than focusing on the wall, the stopper, the lack of money, whatever it is, and we focus on what we truly want, which is out here, we actually can move ourselves to that. And so work toward what you're desiring now. If you want to heal, today's the day, not tomorrow, because by tomorrow you'll forget about this and not do anything.
Well, plus tomorrow hasn't come yet, so why wait? Why put off tomorrow what you can do today? That's the way I look at
Yes,
it. Yeah.
we create in the present moment.
Well, because tomorrow's not guaranteed for anybody, actually. That's why you don't want to put it off. You want to get it done. You want to do it now, the minute you kind of have that realization. And, I guess the example I gave about, my childhood, and, you know, my, I guess, living my, healing through my children, it's not uncommon that that happens. Depending on how, people handle that. Some people can go into extremes with that. Clearly, somebody can become like, what do you call it, like a shopaholic or something, because maybe
Yes.
they were, didn't have much means when they were younger and stuff like that. So I just, like I said, I also waited till I was a little older to have kids, so I was more mature. So I felt I was pretty ready for at least that part of it. I'm not quite sure you could ever be completely ready, but anyway, it can go to an extreme, though. I mean, so you often find when you have people come to a psychology office or see a therapist or something, that there's usually a reason that they're coming. Something's not working in their life and they can't figure it out on their own. And so they need someone to kind of help have what? Another perspective?
Another perspective.
Right, Scott? So they need another perspective.
Absolutely. A new perspective from
Yeah.
another viewpoint. And it's very effective to help.
Sometimes it's just one thing. I mean, you can go to your doctor and then the doctor just say one thing to you and it'd be just like, a bolt of lightning hits you. It could just be hearing something a certain way that you haven't heard before. It's like having something rephrased and put in more basic terms or more specific terms in some cases, right? And then
Yes.
the light bulb goes on. So it's like it is important to talk about these things. It's important to get that other perspective, and that's why people go. And most of the time, they do find that there are issues that stem from childhood, and there are issues that 'cause the first thing a psychologist is going to say is, what was your relationship like with your parents when you were younger? What was your childhood like? They're like, I'm coming in to talk about an issue today. No. No, you're not. You're coming in to talk about an unresolved issue from childhood that's still impacting you today. That's what.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of like, it's something that we just have to acknowledge, and that sometimes we need to reach out for help. We don't
Yeah.
we don't always
Not
have the
only
answers.
acknowledge, but do things to remove those blocks.
Right.
Because acknowledging it just makes us aware, okay, this is the problem. But until we
Yeah.
do something about that
Right.
problem,
Right.
we can't get beyond that. And
Yeah.
so that's why a lot of people just have to go over and over and over again because they listen, but they don't do. And that's what I love about Vicky. She gives
Mhm.
people assignments that helps them
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah.
And it was funny because last fall I did the mentoring for the Ascension, and I gave 12 lessons that Saint Germain had given me about how we get ourselves ready for the Ascension. And she says, Scott, make sure you give an assignment. So each time I'd give an assignment, and because until you do something, nothing changes.
Right.
Listen, 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 read, 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 watch video after video after video. And until we do something, nothing changes.
Right.
Oh, do it in the now. Start today.
Yeah.
Make a commitment. I'm ready to change my life. Because when you start making those action steps, those assignments, those things that will actually work to shift your subconscious, shift the emotions, shift your personality, you won't change your reality. And we want
Mm.
to have a better reality, because right now we're living in a chaotic mess, and we need to realign to the truth, which the truth is you have the power to change things. You, the more of us individuals who shift into a higher consciousness, get past our blockages, and shift our consciousness, it's going to shift the whole consciousness of the planet. It's like the 100 monkey thing, where a bunch of monkeys learned how to do something on a different island, and all of a sudden the monkeys on another island learned and they weren't even there. And it's because we are all one. And when a bunch of us start shifting,
Mhm.
we will shift everybody. So it's time is now.
Well, I'd also like to say that we have a special prayer request for our friend Winston, who is struggling right now to stay healthy in a facility where there's a tremendous amount of COVID-19 patients. And um, we do have a message, Scott. Is this a good time? You want to wait,
That's
or is this good?
absolutely no. The
Okay.
time is now.
Okay. Efforts are being made by the Public Defender's Office in Portland, U.S. District Court, on behalf of Winston. Due to the coronavirus and COVID-19, with the BOP overcrowding and due to Winston's age, 72 years old, and poor health, attorneys and public defender's office are investigating situations so they can motion the court for Winston's release based on compassionate release. There's far too many in his particular location. Was 70% of the people. It was just out of control. It was really a death sentence for anybody going in there, whether you had one or not. Uh, the following prayer could be helpful for everybody. So please, let's start with the first part of the prayer is, please, Lord, assist the attorney and investigator to create a successful motion for Winston's compassionate release. Number two, please, Lord, soften the heart of the judge or magistrate to grant the motion and order Winston's release. And three, please, Lord, block anyone who would come in opposition to this. I love you, Lord, and thank you, so be it. So if you can all repeat that, you might have to just rewind this a few seconds to get the whole thing. The more greater number of people repeating that, the more likely the probability of the success of that happening. But we would also like to add, uh, Father, I ask for assistance of the archangels. I request the archangels to raise the vibrational frequency of his physical body uh, in small increments to 300 hertz. I ask the archangels to create a frequency bubble around Winston at 300 hertz. And so we want to uh, make sure that people are keeping Winston in their prayers and hoping for the best for him, because we know that he doesn't deserve to be there. We do hope that he will be pardoned and at least have a compassionate release for granted because of the overcrowding and the bad health conditions in these correctional facilities. So I know that there was a House committee hearing on this particular issue discussing these particular locations, and that they need to definitely start coming up with some, for nonviolent offenders, you need to come up with some a more compassionate, um, not make it a death sentence if it's not a death sentence, death penalty case. Let's not do
Yeah.
that to people. I mean, people make mistakes. They uh, are paying for it, and it shouldn't be not with their life unless that's the punishment. But it's that's the prayer that I had for Winston.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm
And
gonna forgive
so
me for that.
we're all praying for Winston and all the others who have been incarcerated for foolish things. And
No,
it's not just foolish things, but many of these people were trying to get our sovereignty back, and that's why
yeah,
Winston
yeah,
means so much to Louisa and myself, as he helped us learn about sovereignty and about our God-given rights and our abilities, those kind of things. And And so we have a special place in our heart, but there's a lot of others who've
Oh,
been incarcerated
yeah.
for things that are so uncanny. The
Yeah.
laws now, they could come after you for about anything, chewing gum wrong, I mean, it's something else. And
Right.
so we need to start now. And yes, believe it or not, prayer and meditation
Right.
is doing.
Yeah.
It will shift your consciousness. Prayer is asking for what you desire, and meditation is the act of receiving. So we need to do both.
Right.
Most of us were taught to pray, but believe me when I say meditation, where you receive your answers, and you're just in gratitude as you're doing meditation. Gratitude is the ultimate receivership,
Hmm.
Joe Dispenza says. When we're meditating, we create a new Taurus that not only goes out and around, but comes back in. And so these things are very powerful. In my weekly accountability to help people get healthy, we included the 5 things that help people have spontaneous regression, which it was what the doctors called miraculous healing. And we use those 5, but we also put in the 24 strand DNA manifestation and the decrees for putting my world in divine order or protection, because it puts protection around you, but also prayer and meditation. Every day we need to do these things. And let me tell you, your life will change better by doing these.
Yeah.
And if you want a copy of this, I
Yeah.
can send it out to you.
Yeah. I also wanted to make a comment about uh, you and Vicky working together as a team because uh, Scott and Vicky are very unique, and I can tell you that they have they've walked the walk. They've walked through the valley of the shadow of death. Let me tell you, they have walked it together. They've walked it individually and they've walked it together. And their wisdom is God sent. Let me tell you, they've walked through the fires, the coals. They walked through the fire to get here, and they have such incredible ability to heal not just themselves, but to help heal other people as well. So I just wanted to say that because I don't put my faith behind many people, but I know that Scott and Vicky have walked the walk. I know what they've been through. I know their story, and it has made them. It's like putting that metal in the furnace and making that samurai sword, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you go in and you get burned, and they beat you more and beat you down more, and life will beat you more. But you come back out and you cool off, and then they reshape you, and you go back in, and you get heated up, you get burnt again, and they beat you down and it beats you down, but you come back stronger and you come back as this incredible samurai sword. And that's how you make the best steel, right? And so, you know, that way you whatever happens in life, you can weather so much better. You can get through it so much better. But please, always, and Scott, I think we need to also underscore something here. We need to take responsibility for when we mess up. We can't just
Absolutely.
we can't go around blaming other people
But
and other circles because we have to own what truly is ours. And
yes,
so, can you talk about that before we wrap up?
absolutely. We do. We take responsibility, but we don't want to stay there because that gives us shame, blame, guilt, and grief
Sure,
from the responsibility of
sure.
what we have done.
Hmm.
And we need to know that by doing and shifting the energy, removing those blockages, and receiving the love of God, which is unconditional love. It doesn't matter what you've done. I mean, all of us have participated in diabolical things throughout the eons of time, and we have to release those to God. And the way we do that is release them from ourselves through the process and the techniques that release them. God takes that energy back and burns it up in the great central sun. So all of the evil that we've even done, all the evil that's being done to us currently, can be shifted by shifting our consciousness and doing the work.
Mhm.
Because as we release it, others will release it. It will go back and be reabsorbed, and we will create the reality that we truly desire, which is having peace, harmony, abundance, plenty for all. Being able to live in harmony and peace is what I'm looking forward to, but I'm doing what I can right now to create it.
Yeah.
So I am doing everything I can to help other humans
Yeah.
to move forward, because by them moving forward, they raise their
Yes.
vibration, raises the vibration of the entire planet. So doing these group meditations, doing the work individually is helping create a better world, better
Well,
universe.
what I meant by that though was that we do have to own, and even if you now, I think this is there's a little discrepancy sometimes because it's like, okay, you feel someone has violated you or has offended you or done something, right? Maybe they did it deliberately, you know. Maybe they
Yeah, and one
didn't.
of the things
Maybe they didn't.
we want them to own that. Oh,
Well, you may never get that justice. and and
no,
and
and a lot of times we can't.
yeah, and we have to release it from our heart. That's what we have to do, right, Scott?
Yes, we have to forgive them for what they did to us. Jesus taught, who the guy came up to him and says, "Who do I have to forgive?" And Jesus said, "Everyone." And it was like, the guy was taken back. He was like, "I've got to forgive the guy that raped my wife. I've got to forgive this. I've got to forgive." Yes, yes, absolutely. The answer is yes. We have to forgive everyone and everything, because until we forgive, we can't let it go.
Yeah. And pulling that down, pulling it along in your heart. It's like an anchor attached to your heart that's just pulling your heart down, pulling your energy down in your soul. It's really important to and the reason why we need to own it is so we learn from it, and that's really the only reason. I mean, if you did
Yes.
something, so you're having an argument with your um all right, let me give you a good example. Somebody you're going out with is or someone you had a relationship with is ghosting you, not talking to you. You find out they're with someone else, right? And in fact, they were very serious with someone else and never even told you. Blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. Um, and um, you just felt like they kept stringing you along, breadcrumbing you, and they weren't taking you seriously. And when you found this out, you were like heartbroken about it. But you know, you have two choices, right? You can lash out and be angry. Actually, you have a couple choices. You could try to talk about it, but if they're the kind of person who wants to have control and, if they're someone who's doing that kind of behavior, then they're probably a little narcissistic too. So that's usually not going to work. You don't talk it out with a narcissist because you won't win. You have to know
No.
that going into it.
Yeah.
You have to know that going into it. And, that's kind of the problem. And then another option is you can just walk away. Or you can, there's other options, but you can do things like, you can say something hurtful to them and make sure that they feel the hurt that you're feeling, which is really not a good thing to do either, because it doesn't make it right. But I think a lot of people do some form of that, probably one way or another. Um, so what's the right answer, Scott? What's the right choice? Do you try to talk to them? Well, if you're dealing with a narcissist, you really can't. Do you say something? But if you did say something simply to make them, feel hurt or feel bad about something, you need to own that. And if that person then decides to never speak to you again, then you have to say, okay, that's the result of it. Whether they were right or wrong to begin with, I did say this or you did say that or whatever. So you have to own that. And you have to be willing to own that. So
Yeah.
don't do anything that you're not willing to own, personally, right? Because you have to own that. You have to say, okay, well, this person, and what if they did something more serious and lashed out at you and caused you, whatever. It's like people get triggered today so easily. But Scott, we do, we haven't talked about the narcissist though, which is such a difficult, you know, maybe we'll just start focusing on certain types of like profiles, because I mean, dealing with someone who's a sociopath and you don't know it until it's too late. There's classic examples of this, and also dealing with
Yes.
narcissists. Dealing with narcissists, a lot of people had narcissistic parents, and they ended up, uh, being bullied and all of this other stuff as well, or becoming bullies, right? And dealing with narcissists are so frustrating, and I really love sometimes that I get, because I watch a lot of psychology and lectures and stuff on YouTube from different people. Uh, what's his name, Peterson? He's
Yeah.
good. I listen to what he has to say, um, because it's another perspective, right? It's
Yeah.
another perspective, and it's from a professional perspective. So they're trained to be thinking about other perspectives.
Yes.
It's not trying to. They're not there to try to make you feel uh, better about it by making it seem like it didn't happen or something like that. But they're trying to say that you know there's other factors or other elements that were perhaps present that you didn't see, you didn't pay attention to. I mean, how many of us have later realized that something that we were looking for was right there in front of us, but we didn't see it for some reason. We were blocked. We had a blockage of something, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like what we were looking for was right there in front of us the whole time, and we just didn't see it. It would be nice to know that somebody's there to help you find that before it's too late.
Yes, yes.
Right,
And
Scott?
some of us are, literally so sequestered in our own difficulties, we can't
Yes.
see any way out. And that's when we need help the most. And believe me, you ask what's the answer with a narcissist or a pedophile or any of these really hardened personalities, narcissists who just love themselves and don't
Hmm.
give a shit
Hmm.
about anybody else. Uh, Ho'oponopono is the answer. You ask, what's the answer?
Yeah.
Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
Because as you love them, send them love, they're receiving what they want, which is love. As you forgive them, they feel that burden being lifted from them,
Yeah.
as well as we feel that burden being lifted from us. As we forgive them, and forgive ourselves. I had somebody point out to me, Scott, you need to add forgive yourself to
Yeah.
your Ho'oponopono. So if you haven't got the 2020 Ho'oponopono, ask for it because it includes forgiving yourself because we have got to not only
Mm.
forgive them, forgive ourselves, and then we be in gratitude. Gratitude complements everything that we do. Gratitude brings this receivership, it brings forth the blessings of heaven.
Mhm.
And so the Ho'oponopono, uh, we're dealing with something we believe we can't deal with it. Start with Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, and another point that Louise Hay makes is that you have to be willing to release the need. And I know people are going to say, "Well, I don't need to have a narcissist in my life," or something like that, right? Or I don't need to have poverty. Or I don't. No, you do. You have a need for it,
We
and you need to.
attracted them
Yeah,
because of a lack within ourselves. And so,
exactly.
yes, we caused everything that happens for a reason to help us to evolve. And how we deal with that person or
Mhm.
thing or occurrence helps us either move forward or become blocked.
Yeah.
And so, in order to remove the blockages, we need to do.
Well, while we're wrapping up, I wanted to just close. I want to thank everybody who's been joining us on our live chat. Thank you for your comments, and everyone who's been watching along with us. Thanks so much for watching, and all those who are going to be watching after live stream is uploaded. Give us a thumbs up on the video. Thumbs up that way. I was like, this way, no, this way.
Yeah.
So let us know that you like the content, what we're talking about, because we do feel like, right now in the times that we're living in, and Sherry in our live chat just talked about the invisible evil among us. You know what? The greatest thing that we can do to defend ourselves against this invisible enemy is to be strong within ourselves. Because when we're weak and we're broken, they can conquer us. They can take us over. So we really need to be strong. And when we're strong within ourselves and we know who we are, and we're healed adults, we are a formidable force. And that's what we need right now, folks, because we are in a very huge spiritual battle on this planet, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
And it's very serious, and we need to be strong. We need to be God's army, right? Because Satan has his army, and we can see it. We need to be God's army, and we need to be strong. We need to be really strong, because we're really fighting good versus evil these days. And
No.
do what you can to heal and be strong and be a formidable force against this invisible enemy. And I don't just mean coronavirus. I'm talking about you know all the types of invisible enemies, especially dark energy, people who wish to send you dark energy, people who are wounded and don't want to heal. It serves them for some reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there, all these people. I'm sure a lot of them are MK'd. A lot of them are probably, mind controlled. A lot of them are just completely misled and misguided, who are out there doing this destruction and, defund police. And I'm not saying that it's perfect. It's really not. It's not perfect. We've got huge problems in the judiciary, huge problems. We have, what about the child trafficking rings that are organized by the judges and lawyers? I mean, let's face
Yeah,
let's
and the
be
attorney generals and all these people are involved in it,
yeah,
and they get them involved in it because it's a form
yeah,
of mind control.
yeah,
And because they get in that shame, blame, and guilt because they
yeah,
know they've done
yeah,
bad things and they think their soul's not salvageable,
yeah,
so they stay in those lower vibrations and
yeah,
just keep it going.
yeah,
And it's interesting. 60% of the people were mind controlled before COVID. It went up 10% during COVID. 70% of the people now are mind controlled.
yeah,
Well, they don't need 5G. They just need to put us into fear. Fear vibrates very low.
yeah,
They dropped us down to levels below what 9/11 did. At least we had a little bit of anger in 9/11, but this
yeah.
we didn't even know what to be angry at.
Yeah,
You
everybody was
know?
just stuck and imprisoned in their homes, and this was globally. I mean, what a global hijacking this has been, right? So it's amazing,
Yes.
and so there are a lot of misguided people out there, and
Hey, I
it's
need to mention one thing,
go ahead.
so Vicky doesn't kick my butt. He wants me to offer people our mentoring. We're doing it for $200 for a 12-week mentoring, but we also send you the previous 12 mentorings and the links to the mentoring for the ascension. And I am going to offer a free intuitive reading for those who sign up prior to June 30th. And so you're getting, a $200 intuitive reading. You're getting all the mentorings for $200. So
I'm
I promised Vicky I'd tell this.
oh, sorry. I just had a blister that I scratched, and that wasn't a good
Oh
idea.
man, those hurt like heck.
Yeah. Oh no, I scratched it, and that's hard. I'm sorry about
So
that.
just contact us at scottwerner.org.
Mhm.
You can sign up on PayPal or call 435-986-0025. Nobody's going to be there for another half hour, so don't call right
Okay.
now. But 435-986-0025, and you can sign up. And we are doing everything the Ascended Masters are telling us to do. We are teaching the lessons they've told us to teach. We are giving you the methods that will remove those walls, those blockages that are keeping you from moving forward. And we are going to do our darndest to help present the energy that will lift humanity. There are lots of people out there. Why do you want to choose us? We are guided by the Ascended Masters, even Vicky's being guided by the Ascended Masters. They don't care about anybody but you. I mean, when Saint Germain comes to me and he tells me to do something, my life gets better. It doesn't get worse, doesn't get more busy, because I'm already horribly busy, but it's okay. That's what I'm doing to create and bring forth peace and love and harmony to the planet. And so just know, as you shift, you'll become happier, more peaceful, and be able to move forward and start creating what you truly desire and create a better reality, a higher reality as we move through this. So sorry,
No,
I
that's
had to
perfect.
put in my advertisement because Vicky was mad at me for not doing it last
That's
week.
okay. You're entitled. You can do that. You spent all this all this time of, all this uh, time you've devoted to everybody. Might as well put a little plug in. I don't see anything wrong with that. Yes,
Well,
and
and
my
it's not because of the money. It's because we have to survive too.
yes.
But believe me, you're getting value.
Hmm.
I am so impressed. We've literally paid out over $70,000 for mentors to assist us and help us shift our consciousness.
Yeah.
And this is inexpensive,
Yeah.
200 bucks plus you get the intuitive reading. So we
Exactly.
can, I'd have people call me up and they say, Scott, do that remote viewing stuff you do to me and find out where this blockage
Yeah.
is coming
Yeah.
from. And I'll do it for them. And
Yeah.
they are so grateful. I mean, and it's accurate.
Mm.
It works. And I have the assistance
Yeah.
of the higher beings, and that's why it works. And so just know my ideas are not my ideas. They come from the higher source.
Hmm. Well, I wish more people would, listen to their higher self and get their ideas, because I think I think we'd be in a much better position if most
Oh,
people listened to their higher selves. And by the way, the blister was from laboriously working in my yard and wearing these boots that I don't know why they're like wellies or something, but they rub against the back of my legs so bad. And I try to wear like higher socks or something to keep that from happening, but I got the blister anyway. Okay, so anyway, you're absolutely right. We need to make time for that listening. I mean, I know somebody that has a television on like all the time, all day long, and I don't know how they ever hear themselves think. I just don't know. Are they? Or do they even acknowledge that they have a soul or a high
well,
self?
they're
That
getting programmed.
no,
Television actually, when we're in our
works.
subconscious, not
Yeah,
really paying attention,
yeah,
is deeper programming our subconscious. So
yeah.
it's a part of the MK Ultra thing.
Yeah, it is about programming, and it's about not even being, and that's like the whole thing with the kids with their electronics now that summer is out, school is out. Well, it was out a long time ago, but it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to talk about that today, but it's like, what do they do? And now, you have governors of several states that are saying, well, if you're going to, come to our state, you're going to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Well, forget about, what a disastrous decision that this is for people. People need to just give us the information and we take the risk ourselves. It's our responsibility to decide whether we go out and what we do. I
The
know it's
governors have taken away our sovereignty.
Yes, they have.
Boom, boom, and we give it to them. We're compliant. We need to start being
Yeah.
more proactive
Yeah,
with getting our sovereignty back
exactly.
and telling our governors, look, you don't tell us what to do. You listen to us.
Well, they make their decisions based on votes, not based on what's right. And that,
Well,
they
that's what
want,
I'm
because
saying.
they want to keep power. That's their goal and agenda. And
We
so
need to tell them flat out, we're not going to vote for you if you keep sequestering us in our homes and keeping us
yeah,
from being able to have a life, you
Right.
know?
If you want to have a legacy of doing anything good at all, do it now because you're not getting back in office. That's my message to all the Democrat mayors. I'm sorry, all the Democrat, well, mayors too, but all the Democrat governors out there. You're not getting reelected, and you're making sure of it. Nobody's going to
We we have Republicans that are Satanists too.
Yeah,
And so what we need to do is put good people in those offices
yeah,
who are righteous and trying to do
yeah.
what's right rather than these people who want to continuously have power. Well, I tell you, a couple of the guys running for governor of Utah, they've been in the federal government, they're part of the deep state, and nobody knows this, but they're going to be elected because they're
Mhm.
supposedly the good Mormon people. And, you know, it's fascinating how the CIA is controlling the Mormon church.
Oh, yeah, and that's been a long time, especially with that
Yeah.
big genetic database they have. It should be
Well, they
interesting what they're
recruit
doing.
everybody out of BYU because
Mm,
they know they're trying to do the best they
yeah.
can, and they're very good sheep, very good followers. But they don't think for
Mhm.
themselves because they're trained to
Right.
follow their leaders. And
Yes.
you know, we have to follow our conscience,
Mhm.
not
Our own high self, our own inner wisdom.
exactly.
So we're going to wrap this up now. And Scott, I want to thank you for your time, and please give my love to Vicky. And thanks to all the viewers who are listening, who are watching, and who are listening later, who will be watching after the video is uploaded, and to all the folks in our live chat. Thanks for all of your lovely messages. It was beautiful, and it's always a really great vibe when we're doing these reports with Dr. Werner, because we're always trying to make all this is for the point of making us all stronger. We have to be stronger. We have to unite. We have to find something to unite us, folks. And if you have ideas on what is the one thing that will unite everybody, regardless of race, religion, color, skin, or anything. I mean, I think that sadly we've bought into that propaganda. But we just have to be strong within ourselves. Each one of us, be as strong as you can possibly be. Put on the armor of God, folks, because we're going to need it.
Yes. And that
Ephesians.
armor is
Yeah.
love. Believe it or
So
not, love is the highest consciousness. It will create what we truly.
thank you, everybody, for your comments. Scott, could you send us off with a blessing, if you wouldn't mind?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, and by direction of the great divine director and all the ascended masters, the angels, the archangels, beings of the elements, the seven Elohim and the sevenfold flame of cosmic illumination, we bless all of you, that you will know of the truth which has been spoken here today, that you will feel it in your hearts and minds, that your heart's love will be expanded, and that you will be able to send that love out into the planet and raise the vibration of all the humans on the planet, and bless you that you will be able to forgive and remove the blockages in your life, that all of the sorrow that you feel about what's going on will be brought into a higher state, that you will be brought to know that we are winning the war that is going on in the planet, and that you will know in your heart that those who are working behind the scenes, and you are working behind the scenes to create an energy of love, peace, harmony, and compassion for all that is. We bless you that you will become aware of where you can shift and change, and that you will take action steps, create the reality that we truly desire. We bless you with the power of the 24 strand DNA. And if you've done that, go on to 48 strands and then 96 strands to create the higher dimensional DNA that we will require for this. We bless you also that you will do the decrees, protect yourself from the negative energies and influences that are out there on the planet. You will also go into meditation and prayer. Ask for what you need and it will be given. Knock and it will be opened. And listen for your meditative powers for the answers or godly guidance. We bless you and honor you on this mission during this time upon the planet Earth. You are the ones who came to change the earth, and we will make those shifts and changes. So be it. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, and in the name of all the ascended masters, the Christ consciousness. So God
So be
bless you
it.
guys.
So be it. Thank you for that, Scott. Thank you so much. It's been another very enlightening, and I just feel like 10 pounds lighter after after we
Oh,
do
I feel
interview.
lighter. I
Yeah.
did what Vicky told me to do.
Yeah.
No,
Now you're not in trouble. you,
oh, I'm not in trouble. She loves me no
you get
matter
a
what,
you
but
get
she
a
loves me more when I do what she says.
you got a seat at the dinner table tonight.
Oh, I'll always have my seat.
I know. I'm just kidding. Give her my love, please.
I
Thank you
sure
so much
will.
for today, everyone. And thanks for joining us. And again, remember we have a schedule change with our political theater. It's only going to be found on BitChute, but the thumbnail will be a place marker on YouTube, and the BitChute link will be there, and we'll bring you right to BitChute. So. That's where you can find political theater. We're also on Parlor, folks. So look at us on Parlor. Go to the GoldFish Report on Parlor. We're going to be there as well as Facebook. Sorry, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and all the other platforms, folks. So hopefully we're going to still be here for you. We have to keep everybody strong. That's what we
And
need to do, right,
and
Scott?
please contribute to Louisa because she spends a lot of time doing this, and it does make money unless somebody contributes. So please contribute to Louisa's The GoldFish Report because
Thanks.
let me tell you, yeah, we can't. We're depending on the RV, but it hasn't quite got here for us yet. But we are doing the work. So just know we are dedicated and doing the work. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So I'm just making typing a little message to everybody. So folks, have a great weekend. Actually, I'll be back. It's today Friday. No, Friday. No, Saturday night. We'll be doing, our POTUS report. I'm doing it on Saturday nights because I have an 8 p.m. spot on Ascension Radio. So we just do the simulcast. We do the live stream, and we do I simulcast on Ascension Radio, on internet radio as well. So I might as well just keep it Saturday night because. There's the president is so busy. There's so many press releases coming out of the White House that it's just better that I do it on Saturday because I love that photos of the week. I like to include that also in the report if it's possible. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your support, your love, and your being present here and viewing this. So everyone have a great weekend if we don't see you. And thanks, Scott, for your help. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.